Hi, and welcome to the channel where we discuss medical topics and lifestyle. In this video today, we are talking about vitamin B12 and food sources. We're going to keep it very simple, so strictly covering the food sources in terms of function of vitamin B12 and things like that. We'll do a brief little overview of it, but check the other videos on that. So let's first cover what is vitamin B12 shortly. So vitamin B12 is a water-soluble essential nutrient that plays a crucial role in our overall health and well-being. And just like all vitamins and nutrients, it's quite important in all aspects, really. So, healthy red blood cells. So, it's very, very important for the formation of healthy red blood cells. In addition to this role, it plays an important role in proper nerve function as well. So, this is because it's needed for the production of the protective coating that surrounds our nerves called myelin. Without enough vitamin B12, the myelin can become damaged, which can lead to nerve damage and a range of neurological symptoms, such as tingling or numbness in the hands and feet. Vitamin B12 is also important for DNA production. So it's required for the production of DNA that is needed for the formation of the previously mentioned red blood cells. Without adequate levels of vitamin B12, the body can't produce enough red blood cells, which can lead to anemia. There's also something important to keep in mind here. Vitamin B12 plays a key role in regulating homocysteine levels in the body. So it's homocysteine is an amino acid basically that is produced as a byproduct of protein metabolism. High levels of it basically is linked to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, other health problems. So vitamin B12 works together with other B vitamins such as folate, you may be heard of, and B6 um, to convert homocysteine into beneficial compounds, which then can contribute more beneficially, as opposed to the opposite, where it contributes to the development of cardiovascular disease and other health problems. Now let's talk about who is actually at risk of becoming vitamin B12 deficient. So in my other video, you can check it out. We covered how vitamin B12 gets absorbed. And the most important thing to actually remember is that the digestion and metabolism of vitamin B12 starts, I would say, in the stomach, and it gets absorbed in the terminal ileum, so the last part of the small intestine. So if you think of those areas anatomically, if there's deficiencies in those areas or issues in those areas, then there can be a chance that the person is going to be deficient in vitamin B12. So with that in mind, who's at risk? Spoiler alert, people who are lacking in animal product consumption, because that's where a lot of vitamin B12 is found, can be deficient. So people who are strict vegetarians or vegans, people who have gastrointestinal impacts, so from certain diseases. So I mentioned the small intestine can get infected, or the stomach. So inflammatory bowel disease is a factor there, particularly Crohn's, low stomach acid, and in the elderly, when things start to work a little bit less and less, they are more prone. That's why you may hear of the older you get, there's a higher chance that people can get vitamin B12 injections because they are deficient. We'll make another video on that in terms of the injection side of things, but these are the people who are at risk, as well as celiac disease. And then we have another category that can impact absorption of vitamin B12, medication. Right, so medication can impact things. PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, because they impact the stomach acid that we mentioned. Metformin can play a role, as well as H2 receptor antagonists, because they impact the acidity in the stomach as well. So these are the things to keep in mind. Maybe if you're on some of these medications, there is a likelihood or a chance that you can become deficient. So we've covered who's at risk, a little bit of an overview on vitamin B12. Now let's get into the recommended dietary allowances. So how much vitamin B12 do we actually need? Adults, age 14 and above, need about 2.4 micrograms per day. Pregnancy, there's 2.6 micrograms per day. And then we have lactation, which is 2.8 micrograms per day. So this is roughly how much we need. And now we're going to get into where we're going to get it from. Now, while we are going to cover the vitamin B12 food sources, and they're mainly animal products because that's where they are, um, there are some plant-based sources of vitamin B12 as well. These include fortified cereals, nutritional yeast, and some types of algae as well. So firstly, we have one whole egg, which gives zero point 0.6 micrograms. So that's a very, very small amount. Then we got a cup of milk, 1.2 micrograms. Not too bad if we look at the recommended dose. Um, then we have for 3 ounces of canned tuna. Then we start to increase the amount of vitamin B12. So we have salmon at 4.8 micrograms for 3 ounces of salmon. And then moving up in the animal kingdom or in the food sources, we have 3 ounces of rainbow trout for 5.4 micrograms. So that's a solid source if we look at the daily dietary requirements. And then we move on to king crab. So king crab is a pretty good source, not the best. We'll get into the best, but 9.8 micrograms for 3 ounces. So a solid source of vitamin B12. Now let's get into the best sources, my personal best sources, and really to bump up the numbers of vitamin B12 and you really put it into perspective, how much it offers versus how much the dietary allowances are. So, so we have the top two sources of vitamin B12. The first one is grass-fed beef liver. So this is a top source of vitamin B12 because it has 70 micrograms in 3 ounces of it. So compared to the previous image with the trout and so on, it's big, it's a lot. And then we have clams. So clams are a huge source of vitamin B12 yet again with 84 micrograms in 3 ounces. So there we have it for the food sources of vitamin B12. It's important to note that stores of vitamin B12 in our bodies can last a few years. So you really have to not consume it to become deficient. So keep that in mind. It's not that suddenly next week you'll become deficient. I don't think that's the case at all. Overall, vitamin B12 is a vital nutrient that plays many important roles in the body, including regulation of certain things like homocysteine we mentioned. By ensuring we get enough vitamin B12 through our diet or supplementation, we can support our overall health and reduce the risk for many chronic diseases. Again, the stores of vitamin B12 in our body is quite a bit, and we have a lot of sources that we can tap into to consume enough of it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, leave a comment in the section below, and we'll see you in the next one.